Chapter 71, Settle the Grudge, new book, please read it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing one of those road pirates casually step up and hold off Daz Bones, Erikamo's expression tightened. Things weren't going according to plan. Should they even bother? The bounty hunters exchanged uneasy glances, taking down a pirate with a 71 million berry bounty on their own. Forget about it. Piken, Shiachi, these guys are all yours, Rode said to them, eyeing the crowd of bounty hunters. Besides Daz Bones, none of them were worth his time. You got it. We're pumped. Piken and Shiachi cracked their knuckles, excitement bubbling up inside them. Payday. Hey, try not to wreck everything while you're at it, okay? Nia warned, eyeing their dangerous grins. Forget it, let's go find the loot ourselves. Still not trusting them, Nia grabbed Robin and Beepo and headed into town. Robin, Beepo, time for a treasure hunt. Guess we don't have to hold back then. Piken and Shiachi exchanged wicked smiles. The bounty hunters watching them felt a shiver run down their spines. Bang. Boom. Bang, ack. The night air of Whiskey Peak filled with explosions and screams. Seriously? This is it. Nia sighed, shoving aside the two meager boxes. She'd expected a town full of bounty hunters and a Baroque works base to be loaded with cash. Turns out, after scouring the place, they barely scraped together 10 million berries, and that's with Robin finding a bunch of hidden stashes. Aren't they a criminal organization? How are they so broke? You said Baroque Works is Crocodile's operation, right? He's one of the 7 warlords. We hit Doflamingo's place and walked away with over 100 million. What's Crocodile doing wrong? Crocodile? Doflamingo. Robin's face paled at those names. These guys were top-tier pirates, 7 warlords of the sea. What had she gotten herself into? She knew Baroque Works was Crocodile's crew, and now they were picking a fight with them. Plus, they'd gone after Doflamingo already. Was it too late to jump ship? Too late, Neru said, smiling knowingly. Mind reading. Robin jumped. Not exactly mind reading. Neru spoke again. Still. How did he know? It's observation hockey. Neru explained, seeing the worry in Robin's eyes. He could sense the deep anxiety she was carrying. It wasn't just about the 2 warlords they'd ticked off. There was something else, a weight she'd been carrying long before. Neru recalled her background. Nico Robin, the devil child, with a 79 million berry bounty at just 8 years old. Like Law, this crewmate had a past she was keeping buried. I can teach you how to use it, if you want. Whether you learn is up to you. Neru smiled gently, his calm demeanor easing Robin's tension. It's tough, Nia chimed in. I'm still clueless. But don't worry, Rode invited you here, which makes you one of us. Whatever trouble comes our way, we'll face it together. Robin stared at the red-haired boy. He had the same hair and eyes as Captain Rode, but where Rode was sharp, this boy was calm, like a placid lake, and his gaze felt like he was seeing straight through her. Was that a promise? Was this what Saul meant by finding people willing to protect you? Saul's face flashed in her mind, his laughter echoing in her ears, but then, the image froze, the laughter drowned out by gunfire and screams. No. Robin shivered. Did Genos's fighting scare you? Nia waved a hand in front of Robin's face. I didn't expect him to go so berserk. Nia frowned, watching Genos tear into Daz Bones. Seriously, that's way too reckless. Even more so than those 2. Are you talking about us? Piken pointed at himself. I beg to differ. We aren't reckless, we're fabulous. Yeah, fabulous explosions. Explosion is art. Nia looked at the ruined town. She wasn't seeing any art here. Meanwhile, back to Genos. Looks like their fight's about to wrap up. Everyone turned to watch the 2 warriors. The moon was high in the sky. They'd been fighting since the afternoon. It was after midnight. Destroy and split. Daz Bones slashed wildly, but he couldn't put any power behind it. Clang. Genos blocked the blow with the splintered remains of his axe handle. Looks like you're done, he said, grinning. he'd never fought a battle so brutal. He'd been stabbed countless times, his organs damaged, but he was still standing, gripping the axe handle. Genos raised it high and brought it down on Daz Bones' head, bang. This time, it wasn't the ring of metal. Daz Bones felt his skull rattle, his vision blurring. Damn it. He staggered, fighting to stay upright. He was out of gas, too weak to even use his devil fruit powers. He'd lost. That was the last thing that went through Daz Bones' head. Huff. Genos stared at his opponent, who was unconscious but still standing, and a flash of respect crossed his face. A worthy opponent. That he ripped off his tattered shirt and wiped the blood from his face, then he pulled a cigarette from his windbreaker and lit it. My beef with Baroque works is settled. Chapter 72, Instant Kill, new book, please read it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is great. Man, that dude was right, the wine here's the real deal. Totally, this stuff is awesome. The beer's killer too. Finally. Some decent grub. Robin, you're a lifesaver. Until we find a full-time chef, you're on kitchen duty. No sweat, it's not every day you guys dig my cooking. Sweet. Daz Bones vaguely heard the sounds of a party, sense tickled his nose, and a powerful hunger gnawed at him. You awake? Come grab a bite. Sensing Daz Bones stir, Genos approached, holding a plate piled with meat. What's? As awareness returned, Daz Bones remembered what had happened. He'd been drained in the fight, his body ached all over, but he wasn't badly hurt, just completely spent. That was one crazy fighting style, just relying on inhuman recovery to completely burn him out. But hey, only a monster could fight like that. Daz Bones stood and looked at the crew eating and drinking not far away. The iconic cactus-shaped peak in the distance confirmed they were still at Whiskey Peak, piles of whiskey. Mountain's finest wine surrounded the pirates. Guess they were gonna party their way out of this. Clearing his mind, Daz Bones followed Genos to Rhodes and the others, plopped down, and started shoveling food. With each bite, Daz Bones could feel his body recovering, his energy returned to his battle-weary body. The food digested and fueled his body. After a while, Daz Bones set down his plate and wiped his mouth, his expression as cool as ever. He scanned the group, briefly focusing on Genos before settling on Rhodes. You saved me. Yup. Name your price. I'll kill for you. Rhodes grinned at the offer. If I wanted someone dead, I'd handle it myself. How about joining my crew? Someone like you deserves better than Baroque works. They're small time. Daz Bones considered it. He felt nothing for Baroque works. He'd been a killer, but tired of the same old West Blue gigs. He'd headed for the Grand Line after Baroque works invited him, looking for something new. He wasn't even officially part of the organization, but just because they spared him and helped him out didn't mean he'd sign up. Beat me. After a moment, Daz Bones stood and faced Rhodes, his eyes intense. Defeat me fair and square. And if I do, you join my pirate crew. If you can beat me, you're my boss. Daz Bones watched Rhodes. He doubted someone with a bounty of only 71 million berries could take him in a straight fight. You just went through a battle, you sure? Rhodes stood and met the man's gaze. I was just out of gas. Meaning he was good to go. Rhodes glanced at Genos and saw the fire in his eyes. Daz Bones emphasizing fair showed he wasn't happy with how things went down before. If it helped motivate Genos, even better. Just so we're clear, if I win, you're on board, right? Rhodes cracked his neck. My word's my bond. Good. Rhodes clenched a fist, creating a burst of compressed air. The air in his palm imploded, releasing a roaring sound. The log pose is fully charged. We're setting sail after we eat. We don't have time for you to take your time waking up. So, you mean I'm getting knocked out? His strength had returned, and Daz Bones felt ready. Absolutely. Boom. With a powerful step, Rhodes shot forward, appearing in front of Daz Bones in a blur, too fast. Reacting instinctively, Daz Bones activated his devil fruit power to the max. Steel body. a purely defensive technique. He became as hard as steel, inside and out, unbreakable, impenetrable. 6 Styles Secret Technique, 6 King Gun. Instead of using hockey, Rhodes used the secrets of the 6 styles, gathering every ounce of strength. Rhodes focused it into his fist, releasing it in an explosive burst, bang. The punch slammed into Daz Bone's chest, the force sending him flying, boom. As Rhodes' fist made contact, a shockwave followed, hitting Daz Bones. The punch and the shockwave struck simultaneously. Daz Bones' steel-hard body cracked and broke under Rhodes' attack. Ugh, Daz Bones spat out blood, his eyes glazed over. Maybe went a little hard there. Thump, Daz Bones crashed to the ground. He's alive. Law stepped forward and checked Daz Bones' pulse. But he needs surgery, ASAP. I got a little carried away. Seeing the looks on his crew's faces, Rhodes felt bad. Law, prep bonus for surgery. Beepo, help Law. We'll use this time to load all the wine. All of it? All of it. Why do you need so much? That's crazy. Trust me. Hustle, we're leaving soon. Beepo carried Daz Bones to the infirmary, while the others hauled wine barrels to the polar tang. A little later, the surgery was done, and the wine was loaded. Standing on the deck, Rhodes waved goodbye to the trash town. Let's get out of here. Chapter 73 New Reward, New Book, please read it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Unfamiliar ceiling. When Daz Bonus opened his eyes, all he saw was an unfamiliar ceiling. A jolt of pain from his chest snapped him back to reality. Damn, that was strong. He hadn't stood a chance. Was that what a real powerhouse felt like? He wielded the quick slash fruit, making his entire body tougher than steel, yet one punch had shattered him. Daz Bonus stared blankly at the ceiling, lost in thought. Oh, you're awake. The door creaked open, and a white bear poked his head in, spotting Daz Bonus staring blankly. I'm Beepo. You should eat something. Beepo set a plate down beside Daz Bonus's bed. You've been out for 2 days. Who are you? I'm Beepo, your senpai. Beepo puffed out his chest and pointed at himself. Show some respect. Got it, Beepo senpai. Daz Bonus struggled to sit up, grabbed the food Beepo had left, and ate it slowly. Seeing he was being so cooperative, Beepo scratched his head. If you feel up to it after eating, take a walk. Neru says we'll be reaching the next island in about an hour. With that, Beepo closed the door, leaving Daz Bonus alone with the sound of his own chewing. Maybe being a pirate wasn't such a bad idea after all. The lingering pain in his chest reminded Daz Bonus of the gap between him and true strength. Maybe if he followed them, he could gain that kind of power too. He finished the food on the plate and stared at his hands, a look of surprise on his face. Back in the West Blue, he'd felt like his hands could crush any enemy, cut down anyone who stood in his way, but the Grand Line had given him a harsh reality check. He was still too weak. On the deck of the Polar Tang. Is this my new bounty? Rod stared at the bounty poster in front of him, veins throbbing in his forehead, his eyes twitching. The day after leaving Whiskey Peak, they'd finally received a new newspaper delivered by a news coup, and with it, a new bounty. 210 million berries. Way to go, Boss Rod. Pekin was quick to praise, eyeing the new bounty. Totally. And that picture is so cool. It really captures Boss Rod's vibe. Xia Chi chimed in, nodding enthusiastically at Rod's poster. Just let me find out which Marine came up with this nickname. Rod seethed, his anger flaring as he read the name under his picture. Blue-Eyed Rod is pretty standard, actually. Pirate nicknames are usually based on looks, you know. Even the 4 emperors have simple names like Red Hair and Whitebeard. Nia glanced at Rod's bounty poster, then at his angry face, not understanding what the big deal was. But you are Red Hair. If that spot hadn't been taken, that probably would have been your nickname. Yeah, and Hawkeye Myhawk, the world's greatest swordsman among the 7 warlords of the sea, has a similar kind of name. Law added, completely missing the point. They just didn't get it. Rod stared at his bounty poster, not knowing where to direct his rage. The thought of people seeing him and calling him Blue-Eyed Rod made him want to go on a rampage. Our bounties went up too. Nero picked up the remaining posters. Black Gun Nell, bounty of 82 million berries. Probably because he took out Ghost Spider's lieutenant, his bounty's seen a pretty significant jump. Death Surgeon Trafalgar Law, bounty of 81 million berries. Nero figured most of the increase was due to destroying that warship, though his special fruit ability probably played a part too. The Marines probably know he's the Op No Mi user now. Catwoman Nia, bounty of 38 million berries. Interestingly, her poster doesn't specify dead or alive like everyone else's. It's just alive or dead. Zombie Man Genos, bounty of 58 million berries. His poster shows him covered in blood, wielding an axe, looking totally menacing. During the battle at Tiger Shark Island, he took out a lot of Baroque Works guys and some Marine officers, which is why his first bounty's so high. Bepo, bounty of 500 berries. More than doubled. Evil Scientist Thomas Gray, bounty of 47 million berries. Why does Gray have a bounty? Pointing at Gray's poster, Piken and Xia Qi looked outraged. That guy hadn't seen a real fight in his life, and he got a bounty that high on his first try. We're doomed. Gray was terrified. He was just a scientist. Why did he have a bounty, and such a big one at that? Don't get so worked up, you guys are on the wanted list too. Bepo offered half-hearted comfort to Piken and Xia Qi. Gray's wanted poster showed a picture of him dancing with Piken and Xia Qi. Because of the way it was cropped, you could see half of Piken and Xia Qi's faces. Not like this, we don't. X2. Somewhere in the Grand Line, a massive warship plowed through the sea. Report. A signalman rushed to the deck, running up to the purple-haired man standing at the ship's bow. Admiral Zefa. Just received intel that the Rod pirates destroyed Whiskey Peak and have already left. I've told you before, I'm not an admiral anymore. Zefa turned to face the signalman. I seem to recall the next island on the route from Whiskey Peak is. The next island is Little Garden, a prehistoric island, a blue-haired girl standing behind Zefa supplied. We have a log pose locked onto that island. It takes a year for its magnetic field to fully record. They won't be leaving anytime soon. We have plenty of time. Don't underestimate them, Ein. To defeat Vice Admiral Ghost Spider, do you really think we can predict this group of pirates using common sense? Zefa turned his head and looked at his disciples. If we have a log pose locked on that island, it's possible they have another one pointing elsewhere. Never expect your opponent to act the way you expect them to. Zefa patted Ein on the shoulder and turned to address the rest of the soldiers. Head to Little Garden at full speed. For now, that's where we have the best chance of catching them. Zefa looked at Ein, teaching her. In the incident 3 years ago, only Ein and Bin survived, and they'd stayed by his side ever since. For Zefa, now all alone in the world, those 2 remaining disciples were like family. Chapter 74, The Little Garden and the Pink-Haired Girl, New Book, please read it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Little Garden, here we are. Before them lay an ancient island, wild and untouched. So, what's the deal with this place? Luo asked Rhodes. The Navy had to know what they'd stirred up at Whiskey Peak, which meant they'd likely be waiting for them at the next stop, this island. They had multiple log poses, so they didn't need to risk a run-in with the Navy and just keep sailing by the book. Rhodes must have picked this island for a reason. Under Nilo's guidance, the Polar docked. Pekin and Shaki dropped anchor, securing the ship. Spill it. What's so special about this place? Rhodes gazed toward the island center. Boom. A massive roar ripped through the air. Was that a volcano? Luo snapped his head toward the source. Bang. Boom. Immediately after the first, another earth-shattering explosion echoed, distant yet intensely loud. Beyond the pristine, ancient ecosystem, this island's got one unique feature. 2 giants. They've been fighting here for 100 years. 100 years? Everyone froze, stunned. Those sounds, that's them fighting. Peijin and Xia Qi exchanged glances. The noise was louder than their ship firing on all cylinders. They're your targets? Luo questioned Rhodes. Yep. I'm very interested in those two giants. Rhodes confirmed, more accurately, he was after their weapons, and even more than that, their skills, the unique Elbaf fighting technique passed down in the giant kingdom, Elbaf spear, hegemony. Even a Yonko like Charlotte Linlin coveted it. Giants. Robin murmured, a flicker of memory in her eyes, those were Sorrow's people, but, for the moment. I'm really curious about this ancient island. Robin studied the landscape, a spark of investigation lighting her eyes. Would an island with that name hold ancient relics? I'm more intrigued by the untouched nature of it all. Gray peered into the deep woods, a look of confusion on his face. He didn't care about giants. He was more interested in extinct creatures that might still live here. Still, it's a bit unsettling. If there are giants, there have to be other predators too. We'll go with you. Pekan and Xia Qi flanked Gray. Rhodes was clearly heading for the giants. They'd better go with Gray to explore the island first. Bibo and I are going to scout for rare herbs. Then I'll stick with Robin. This island is probably teeming with dangerous wildlife. Neru joined Robin and gave her a smile. I'll stay and watch the ship. Bonus isn't very mobile right now. Geno surveyed the scene, then picked up Sissy. We'll just take a stroll around the immediate area. Then I'll go with Rhodes. Nia moved to his side, her curiosity about giants piqued. Alright, let's split up and meet back here before dark. So, Rhodes, what are these giants even like? Nia asked impatiently as they walked into the dense woods. Imagine a really, really big him. That's not helpful. You asked a dumb question. Hold up. Rhodes stopped abruptly, sniffing the air. What's wrong? Nia tensed, ready for anything. The sound of the giants fighting had stopped. Had they been spotted? Do you smell that? Smell what? It's food. Amazing food. Rhodes inhaled deeply, nodding decisively. Food? Nia tilted her head. Could it be the giants' food? This way. Without answering, Rhodes turned and headed in a different direction. Rhodes, aren't we going to find the giants? The giants aren't going anywhere. Rhodes followed the irresistible scent, and soon, Nia caught a whiff too. That is an amazing smell. I told you. Pushing through the brush, they found a massive cauldron bubbling over a fire, emitting the alluring aroma. It's incredible. Nia rushed to the pot, inhaling the fragrance with a blissful expression. Just smelling this makes me feel amazing. Eyes glued to the cauldron, Rhodes finally pulled himself away to assess their surroundings. More than the food itself, he wanted whoever made it. A makeshift stove made of stones, flat rocks for chopping and scattered stools, all showed signs of food prep. Simple, and no visible seasoning. Was the incredible scent just the pure essence of the ingredients? Awesome! Humans! A joyful voice rang out, and Rhodes whirled around. The body proportions were wild. That was Rhodes's immediate thought. The girl was a vision of pink, with rosy hair and matching eyes. Her simple, beautiful face made her look like a doll, and then there was her figure, which was completely out of sync with the rest. The girl wasn't tall, she might even be considered petite, but she was incredibly well endowed. Seriously, that's just not fair. Nia muttered, eyeing the girl's chest, then glancing down at herself. She could see her toes. Suddenly, the food didn't smell quite as good. I can't believe it, I finally get to see humans again. The girl's eyes glistened with tears as she charged toward Rhodes. Whap. He casually placed a hand on top of the girl's head, stopping her tackle. Then he calmly patted her fluffy, pink hair. Just as he suspected, it was super soft. Let's just talk nicely, okay? No touching. You're really a guy. Nia stared at Rhodes strangely. Even she wanted to hug this cute girl, and Rhodes was just grabbing her head so casually. Sorry. The girl stopped, rubbing her head, and then looked up at Rhodes. her eyes still shimmering with tears. Chapter 75 Delicious Food, Minina's Dream, Happy Dragon Boat Festival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sorry, that the pink-haired girl was short and looked up at Rod, tears welling in her eyes. Ahem, Rod cleared his throat, sounding a bit forced. Mind explaining what's going on? Shouldn't be anyone living on this island. Sorry, haven't seen another human in ages. Got a little overexcited, she mumbled, lowering her head, a blush creeping up her cheeks, so cute, Nia's eyes sparkled. I'm Minina, a gourmet traveling the Grand Line. Minina looked up at Rod. I heard this island had extinct ingredients, so I came here about 6 months ago. Her eyes lit up, and she beamed. The legends are true. It's full of stuff that's gone extinct. Colorful cloud mushrooms, red fox fruits, peach fragrance leaves, you name it. Even extinct animals. Then, her face fell. But, she said, deflated, I haven't been able to eat any of it. Every time I collect ingredients and whip up something amazing, there's this terrifying thump, thump, thump sound, like some monster's coming. I get scared and hide, and when I come back, the food's all gone. Poor thing, so sad. I want to give her a hug, Nia's fingers twitched. It really does smell amazing, Rod said, a hunch forming in his mind. Actually, I've already gathered what I needed and was planning to leave, but my record pointer seems busted. It won't point to the next island. Minina looked at Rod hopefully. Could you take me with you? Your record pointer's not broken. Huh. It's this island. The magnetic field takes a whole year to recharge. A year? Minina groaned. We have a permanent pointer, so we can leave anytime. Yes. But there's this massive island-eating monster out there that swallows ships whole. So we're stuck here forever. I'm pretty sure I can deal with it. Yay! Watching Minina's expressions flip from despair to excitement, Nia nudged Rod. Jerk, she thought. It's almost mean to watch her like that. You can get on my ship and come with us. Oh, thank you so much. Minina bowed deeply, swaying slightly. I mean, you can join my pirate crew. You're pirates? Her eyes widened as she looked at Rod and Nia. Aren't you? Rod countered. You've probably just not been out at sea that long. According to the world government, if you choose to sail, you become a pirate one way or another. Really? Minina tilted her head. Totally. And you want to travel the Grand Line, right? This sea is unpredictable, crazy weather, shady characters. You can't do that alone. I see. Minina nodded firmly. Okay, I'll join. Awesome. Rod ruffled her hair. Huh. Minina was caught off guard. We've got other crewmates. I'll introduce you later. But dinner's about ready. Let's have a mini feast, just us three. Before she could say anything, Rod was already sitting, eyes glued to the bubbling pot. Can I eat? Almost, Minina said, snapping back to attention. She glanced at the pot. Colorful cloud mushrooms are delicious, but they're also poisonous. You have to cook them long enough. The longer you cook them, the better they smell, but you gotta eat them within 10 minutes of when the aroma peaks, or they turn nasty. Got it. Rod was practically drooling. Okay, it's ready, right on cue, the aroma peaked. The food seemed to glow. This is amazing. Rod shoveled a mouthful and let out a moan of pure bliss. The flavor exploded in his mouth, wiping everything else from his mind. So good. Minina tasted it and teared up. 6 months. She'd known about these ingredients for 6 months, but she was finally able to eat a dish she'd made. Hoo-ha! Nia blew on her spoonful, impatient as ever, especially seeing how happy Rod and Minina were. Another bowl. Rod and Minina lunged for the rice pot simultaneously. Slow down. Save some for me. Nia whined. Ah. I'm stuffed. Nia lay sprawled on the ground, patting her stomach. She'd eaten at least 10 bowls. I can't believe you can eat so much for such a little thing. Nia said, pushing herself up to look at Minina. The other girl looked like she hadn't eaten a thing. Where did all that food go? Minina scratched her head sheepishly. Actually, I have another dream, something I haven't told anyone, but we're partners now, right? Partners should share their dreams. She blushed, her voice shy. I've always been a big eater. Stronger than anyone my age, too. By the time I was 10, I was the strongest kid in town. Even the fishermen weren't as strong as me. But the stronger I got, the bigger my appetite got. Most girls eat 1 bowl, grown men maybe 2 or 3, but I had to eat enough for dozens. My family was great, they never let me go hungry, but I still felt bad. Everyone in town was nice about it. They'd just smile and say I had a good appetite and a healthy body, and that I'd become someone special someday. But still. I was different. I'm different from everyone else. Minina shook her head, still a little ashamed of her uniqueness. But then, her eyes sparkled. So, I want to develop a dish that concentrates the essence of food. That way, even with my appetite, I can eat the same amount as everyone else. Chapter 76 Elbaf's Judgment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You're such a cutie, and kinda goofy too. Nia reached over and ruffled Minina's hair. Huh. Sounds like you come from a real peaceful town. Nia gazed at a passing cloud. You shouldn't be ashamed of your appetite and strength. They're a reflection of your unique talents. Only those who've been there truly understand the importance of a strong body out on the sea. Seeing Minina's confused expression, Rod sighed inwardly. She really was born in a lucky place, probably somewhere far from war, where people lived in peace and harmony. I'm all for you chasing your dreams. But that doesn't mean I agree with you trying to be just like everyone else. I just support you, as a partner, in bravely pursuing what you want. Besides, if your idea actually works, it'd be the ultimate military ration. Maybe we could call them ration pills. Ration pills? Don't sweat it. Rod waved dismissively. Even if you don't realize it yet, you must have felt it on some level. You wouldn't have survived alone on this island for so long without extraordinary strength and stamina. And if you get even stronger, you won't have to worry about getting jumped by wild animals, and you could enjoy your carefully prepared meals long ago. Minina blinked. Guess that's true. Gahahaha, a booming laugh suddenly erupted nearby. It's a giant. Nia instantly dove in front of Minina to protect her, her body tense as she stared at the giant who'd appeared out of nowhere. All she could see was his huge face, much bigger than her whole body. He had an exaggerated grin and a yellow beard like a broom. Finally, I meet the little cook who makes such delicious food. The giant stared at Minina with his massive eyes. Did you finish all the food today? What a shame. I love the food you make. Gahahaha. So, you're the one who's been eating it all. Sorry. Your food is so darn fragrant, I just can't help myself. But I also made some barbecue for you to try, but I never see you, I can only find your delicious food. Poor girl. Rod paused for a moment of silence for Minina. Today's a great day. I finally get to meet your friends, and some new faces to boot. Come visit my place, everyone. The giant finally turned his attention to Rod and Nia. I'll treat you right. The meat's ready, let's eat. The giant pointed at the giant meat skewer he had grilled. How am I supposed to eat that? Looking at the massive piece of meat, several times bigger than she was, Nia muttered under her breath. Just now, they'd followed the giant, who called himself Brocky, back to his so-called home, which turned out to be a cleared patch of land. On the way, Nia had witnessed the giant's terrifying fighting power firsthand. Despite his enormous size, he possessed incredible agility. Capable of surprisingly delicate movements, no matter how huge the beast, it was no match for his axe. The meat skewer was made from a Tyrannosaurus rex. Don't mind if I do. Nott Rod grabbed a meat skewer, which was much larger than others, and started chowing down. Thanks. After glancing at the giant, Minina also began to eat the barbecue in front of her. It was a piece of meat that towered over her, but she lifted it up with ease. This meat is amazing. Between bites, Rod gave Brocky a thumbs up. Gahaha, glad you like it. It's been ages since I've seen anyone more. Uncle Brocky. Rod had already finished his barbecue. That's wild. You don't look like you can eat that much. Brocky handed Rod another piece of barbecue. You're a good kid, Rod. I'd love to have a drink with you, but we drank all the wine on the island. Ha, ha, ha. We've got plenty of wine back on the ship. Rod put down his barbecue. With his life return abilities now partially mastered, he could break down and absorb food quickly. He figured he could probably digest an entire dinosaur. I'll go get the wine, and we can have a party. Gahaha. I'm looking forward to it. It's been way too long since I had a good drink. Brocky roared with laughter. Boom star. A deafening roar echoed through the air. It's time. Brocky stood up, grabbing his axe. I've got a duel. I'll drink with you when I get back. A duel? Nia, unable to eat any more, perked up at the sound of this. In our giant country, Elbaf, there's a rule. If we have a disagreement and refuse to back down, we must accept the judgment of the god of Elbaf. The god of Elbaf always protects the righteous, allowing them to survive. I have a disagreement with someone else. This island is our arena. The righteous will win the battle and survive. So, might makes right. Nia took over the conversation and glanced at Rhodes while speaking. This is very similar to Rhodes's philosophy. Gahaha. Our battle has been going on for 100 years. So far, there's no winner. I don't know when it started, but we take the eruption of the central volcano as the signal to start the duel. Now, the signal's been sent. I'm off, Road Boy. Brocky grabbed his axe and charged toward the battlefield. Boom. The next moment, a violent explosion shook the ground, the shockwave nearly uprooting trees. So strong. Nia watched the two giants fighting in the distance. Even from this far away, her body reacted instinctively. The black cat ears on her head twitched, and her pupils constricted involuntarily. Instinct. Feeling her hair standing on end, Nia's lips curled into a dangerous smile. Her body was instinctively reacting to a powerful enemy. Her body was eager to fight. Chapter 77, The Legend of the Giant Pirates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What a fight. Nia watched, mesmerized by the battle of the giants. No fancy stuff, just raw power and deadly intent with every strike. This was fighting stripped bare, honed by countless battles where life hung in the balance. Incredible. Rod's eyes were glued to their weapons. I want one. The fighting techniques passed down in Elbaf had to be something special, and those special moves. Like the Elbaf spear that could pierce the sea and dominate a nation. Bang! Their shields slammed into each other's heads simultaneously. 70,533rd fight, 70533 RD tie. The two giants crashed to the ground, unconscious. Ha ha ha. Dongli, I found some cool friends, and they brought good booze. Heh heh heh. Brokey, share the love. It's been ages. Why don't you two join our party? Rod stood on a nearby rock, putting him at eye level with them. Pretty strong, kid. Brokey chuckled, surprised by Rod's sudden appearance. They had been so focused on each other, they hadn't even noticed him sneak onto the battlefield. This kid was no joke. Heh heh, is this the friend you were talking about, Brokey? Ha ha ha, that's right. Meet my new buddy. I've got some pals on this island too. How about a big party tonight? Ha ha ha. Awesome. It's been over a century since my last pirate bash. Yeah, let's do it. Alright. I'll hunt down the main course. Ha ha ha. Heh heh, I'm on it. I'm the better hunter. Ha. Hold on a sec. Seeing the giants were already arguing over who could bring the biggest game, Rod cut in. My crew aren't giants, so normal-sized prey is fine. Okay, I'll grab a triceratops. The meat's tenderer. Heh heh, I'm getting a tyrannosaurus. It's got more chew. I'll head back to the ship for the drinks. Sounds like the captain's got it covered. Listening to the party being planned on the fly, Nia hugged Minina. Tonight, it's your time to shine. You got it. Minina was pumped, watching the giants lumber off. Those two looked like they could eat a ton. And Captain Rod seemed to have a pretty big appetite too, but she wasn't backing down. She would make a meal that would blow everyone away. That night, the bonfire blazed. Cheers. The huge wine barrel looked tiny in Brokey's hand, like a dainty glass. This is some good stuff. Tastes like forever ago. Next to Brokey and Donnelly, a mountain of empty barrels was growing. And the food's amazing. Donnelly crammed a massive chunk of barbecue into his mouth and gave Minina a thumbs up. You're incredible, kid. You're putting away food like it's going out of style. Ha ha ha. Minina grinned, holding a massive piece of barbecue herself. Dinosaur meat is the best, crunch. Seeing Minina chowing down on a hunk of meat bigger than her head, Donnelly and Brokey exchanged a look and roared with laughter. This is our chef. She's a natural. You're a goddess. Shining with culinary light. Bear loves you. Gray, Pekan, Xia Chi, and Beepo surrounded Minina, showering her with praise. Luo and Neru, sitting nearby, weren't quite as over the top, but their lightning-fast eating speed spoke volumes. Delicious. Robin savored her food quietly, a rare feeling of peace washing over her as she watched her crew. Her eyes drifted to the giants, a complex expression flickering across her face. She was reminded of her giant friends. Am I imagining things? Daz Bones stared at the food in his bowl. He swore he was recovering faster than usual after eating this stuff. Something wrong? Genos turned to him. Nah, nothing. Daz Bones shook his head and grabbed another bowl. This is awesome. Seriously. I never knew flame mushrooms could taste this good. Genos popped a fiery red mushroom into his mouth, his eyes widening as the flavor exploded on his tongue. He'd read that flame mushrooms were a delicacy, and tried them once out of curiosity. All he got was poison and threw up blood. No taste at all, but with Minina's cooking, he finally understood the hype. She knew what she was doing. Say, you two ever think about heading back to Elbaf? Brokey and Donnelly. Rod clinked his glass against their barrel and downed the wine. Bah! 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 Our duel ain't over yet. Brokey laughed. That's right. There's only one permanent log pose that can lead back to Elbaf. Only the winner can return with honor. Donnelly replied, and they both shared a hearty laugh. Even though they tried to kill each other without hesitation during their fights, they could still sit together and joke around like old friends. After all, they had been partners for over a century. But seriously, aren't you concerned about what happened back then? Rod asked them. You two were the captains of the giant pirates that caused a ruckus on the sea about a century ago, right? Giant pirates. Robin, sitting next to Rod, looked up. I heard they were captured by the Navy around 100 years ago. Huh? Donnelly and Brokey both set down their barrels. Their duel had been going on for almost a century, which meant the giant pirates were captured shortly after they started fighting. I don't know what happened after that, Robin said. She had only read about them in old books and hadn't looked into it further. But there are quite a few giant vice-admirals in the Navy these days. I wonder if they have anything to do with that era. Yeah, Rod said. He set down his glass and shared some unknown information. After the giant pirates were captured, the Navy initially planned to execute them. But someone stepped in and stopped them. She believed that executing the giant pirates would provoke a war with the Titan clan and the world government. After she talked with them, the world government didn't kill them. Ha ha ha. That's one heck of a person. Brokey took a long swig of wine. Chapter 78 The Final Duel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Amazing man. Please. Truth is, it was a setup by the world government and that Carmelite nun. That whole charade bought them Elbaf's trust, and they ended up recruiting giant warriors for the world government. Hell, even now, they've got a giant general or two working for them. And get this, rumor has it you two were captured by the world government. Seems your old partner's still guarding the gate for them, hoping to rescue you. Damn it, Brockie and Dongli were in no mood to enjoy their wine anymore. World government bastards. But wait, there's more, Rhodes added. After that whole mess, the nun became buddy-buddy with the giants and started a lamb's house in Elbaf, basically adopting kids and selling them off to the world government. Decades ago, one of the kids she adopted screwed up big time. Wrecked a giant village and killed a giant elder, Yaruru. Elder Yaruru. Brockie was so worked up he crushed his wine barrel. Looks like we can't just keep dueling like this. Dongli looked at Brockie. Never imagined so much crap was going on. Then let's make tomorrow our final duel. Their eyes met. The winner gets to go back to Elbaf, rebuild the giant pirates, and snatch our buddies back from the world government's clutches. You read my mind. Hey, fellas, Rhodes said, breaking the tension. Truth be told, besides being a pirate, I'm also a bit of a weapon collector, especially weapons from strong fighters. Might be a bit forward of me, but could I check out your weapons? Surviving almost a century of fighting? Giant forging skills must be something else. Gray, who was busy chowing down, perked up at that. He squeezed in next to Rhodes, eyes glued to the giants. A lot of his designs were solid, just limited by the available materials. Rhodes' question gave him an idea. These two giants have been battling it out for almost 100 years. Over 70,000 fights, and their weapons are still holding up. That's insane. Maybe, just maybe, he could find some clues in their weapons that could help him with his super material designs. Gabba, you want to see our weapons? Brockie grabbed the axe lying nearby. The blade was riddled with cracks and chips. Here you go. Brockie handed Rhodes his axe. This old thing's been with me for over a century. About time it retired, I guess. Take mine too. Dongli passed his longsword to Rhodes as well. Just like Brockie's axe, the sword was covered in chips and cracks. After tomorrow's duel, whoever wins, I'll give you my weapon. You like collecting weapons from strong guys? Feels good to be called strong by a friend. Heh. Same here. Stick around for our final duel tomorrow, and it's yours. Ba. Then I'll take you up on that. You guys are true friends. Rhodes reached out and took the weapons. Compared to his size, they were ridiculously huge. He could barely hold them. The second he touched them, Rhodes, knights will not die with unarmed hands, ability kicked in, giving him complete control. Suddenly, a flood of fighting techniques filled his mind. These were completely different fighting styles from any swordsmanship he'd ever learned. The simplest, most direct way of fighting, no fancy techniques needed. What insane combat experience. Snapping out of his trance, Rhodes gently set the weapons down, a look of awe in his eyes. These weapons had seen countless battles over the years, and the combat skills Rhodes gleaned from them were beyond anything he'd experienced before. It was too much to absorb all at once. Well, then I'll be there tomorrow to witness your duel, as a friend. The next day, boom. As the central volcano erupted, Dongli and Brockie leaped to their feet and grabbed their weapons. This is our final duel. Before the god of Elbaf. Watched by our friends. Come on, Tori. I'll win, Brockie. Boom. Their weapons collided, creating a sound louder than the volcano itself. A terrifying shockwave ripped outwards from the point of impact. We're gonna get blown away. Rhodes and the crew were perched on a large rock nearby. The force of the blast almost knocked Gray off his feet. Robin noticed Gray struggling and immediately used her powers, sprouting hands to grab him. Saved. Thanks. Gray, safely back on the rock, clutched his chest and quickly thanked Robin. You're not even a fighter. Why did you have to come watch? You could have stayed down there. Nia glanced at Gray, who was now squatting on the ground, clinging to the rock for dear life. What do you know? This is the scientific spirit. Gray's eyes were glued to the giants battling it out. He'd spent hours last night examining their weapons. They weren't made of ordinary metal. They seemed to be infused with some special minerals that boosted their performance. That must be why they were so powerful. He needed to see how they performed in a real fight. This battle is crazy dangerous. Nelu stared intently at the fight, activating his haki to its fullest extent. This was an incredible learning opportunity. These two giants were the strongest fighters he'd ever seen, both in terms of experience and skill. Even though they were huge, their fighting styles weren't clumsy. They mixed brute force with surprising finesse. Don't worry, I'll patch them up as soon as it's over. Luo's face was calm, but his knuckles were white as he gripped Guei Cry. He realized, yet again, just how wide the gap in strength really was. He wasn't strong enough. Chapter 79 The Arrival of the Navy, Zefa. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Offshore of Little Garden. Hey, Teach, I heard there's a couple of giants been duking it out on Little Garden for like 100 years. Ian watched the island get closer, turning to his teacher, who was standing at the ship's bow. That's the story. Zefa nodded. Are they pirates, too? Yep. Back in the day, they had a 100 million berry bounty on their heads. So why didn't the Navy just haul them in? Ian asked, confused. The pirates were right there, and the Navy knew about them, yet nothing happened. Zefa didn't answer, just stared at the approaching island, a dark look in his eyes. Yeah, why? Why hadn't they sent a squad to arrest those pirates? Were they worried the giants would go after the world government? Or were they afraid of losing out on recruiting giant soldiers from Elbaf? It always came down to the higher-ups and their calculations, but could they just ignore what was happening right in front of them because of these trade-offs? Could they really just pretend pirates didn't exist? If so, how could they even call themselves protectors of justice? Zefa's eyes hardened, and he clenched his fists. Then I'll do it myself. Bang. Another all-out attack. Brokey and Dory's blows landed simultaneously, sending them staggering back. Can't break the stalemate. Rod muttered, watching the fight. These two giants were from Elbaf and trained together since they were kids. Later, they both became leaders of giant pirate crews, but they ended up stuck on this island, locked in combat for a century, over 70,000 battles in total. After all this time, they knew each other inside and out, their fighting styles, their habits, everything. The information he'd gotten from inspecting their weapons yesterday proved it. Looks like another fight that ends in a draw, everyone beat up. The only difference is they're both too stubborn to quit. They'll fight to the bitter end. As Rod and the others watched, the giants threw everything they had into each swing. Even when they couldn't properly hold their weapons anymore, they kept slugging it out with their bare fists. Finally, both fists landed at the same time. The blows were weak compared to before, but they still managed to send the giant stumbling back before they collapsed to the ground. 70,534 fights, 70,534 draws. Still no winner. Brokey sighed, lying on his back and staring at the sky. He was completely spent. A century of fighting, and it had all been for nothing. All right, I'll patch them up. Luo said, getting to his feet and heading toward the giants. They were covered in cuts and bruises. Nothing fatal, but he couldn't just leave them like that. Roar roar. Just as Rod and his crew approached the giants, a voice echoed through the forest. Suddenly, the whole place seemed to come alive. Vines snaked out of the ground and wrapped around everyone, with Dory and Brokey as the main targets. Before they knew it, both giants were completely bound in thick layers of vines. What the? Brokey's face went pale as he realized what was happening. He tried to break free, but he was too exhausted from the fight. All he could do was watch as the vines tightened around him. pinning him to the ground. Dory was in the same boat, tangled and helpless. What is this? Danger. Too strong, that the crazy vines went after Rod and his group as well. In an instant, Gray and the others were tied up. Navy, that the second the vines grabbed him, Rod reacted, dodging the attack. He used Moonwalk to stay airborne, looking down with a grim expression. This ability seemed familiar. Wasn't it used by the Navy in that movie? And the big bad from that movie? Heh heh. A hulking figure dropped from the sky with a sinister chuckle, delivering a devastating blow to Rod. Bang! The black, cannonball-like fist broke the sound barrier and slammed into Rod. Boom! Rod was sent flying. He crashed into the ground with an earth-shattering roar, leaving a massive crater. Damn, that punch packs a wallop. Zefa. Rod groaned, standing up and facing the purple-haired behemoth, former admiral of the Navy headquarters, Zefa. Even though he'd covered himself in hockey just in time, Rod was still hurting from that sneak attack. To pull a surprise attack on a kid like me? An old-timer like you should have some honor. And you even used internal destruction at the moment of striking. Cheap shot. It's been too long since I had a real fight. I held back. Zefa glanced at Rod, who was spitting blood, and clenched his fist. 3 years ago, in a pirate attack, he lost almost all of his students, except for Ein and Bins, and he lost his right arm. Now, he had a prosthetic made by the Naval Science Unit. Dr. Vegapunk was a genius, and the limb functioned perfectly, but it still wasn't the same. The flow of hockey wasn't as natural. But it would be enough to take down these pirates. He was the former admiral of the Navy headquarters, Black Arm. Zefa. Everyone, take care of the rest of the Navy. Rod focused on Zefa, not letting his guard down for a second. Zefa, let me handle this. Heh, you got some nerve, you green-eyed brat. Huh. Rod's eyebrows twitched. Anger simmered within him. You Navy guys just love to push my buttons. Don't ever call me that damn nickname again. Boom. Rod stomped forward, leaving a fresh crater in the already shattered ground. Whoosh. Rod was on Zefa in a flash, his fists crackling with hockey. Split the sky. Boom. Zefa's fist shot out as well. The force of the impact created a shockwave that ripped through the air, sending tremors rumbling through the island. Chapter 80 The Six Kings Spear with Domineering Aura. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just a punk, Zefa muttered. He felt the force behind the kid's punch, the raw power, and his eyes flashed with surprise. Still, he didn't back down. Fancy name for a simple attack. Rod's eyes flashed with anger at that. Simple or not, you'll find out if you want to go again, old man. He threw another punch, his energy flowing, making each blow stronger, deadlier. Zefa blocked it. Why'd a kid like you choose to be a pirate? Even after everything he'd been through, losing his family, his students, he still believed in the Navy's justice. He knew the Rhodes pirates weren't just burning, killing, and looting. Why? Rhodes repeated, thinking back to everything he'd seen, everything he'd learned growing up. Celestial dragons, the world government, kings, nobles, corrupt navy, brutal pirates. Ordinary people crushed under the weight of it all, struggling just to survive. He wasn't going to live like that. Because I want to control my own damn life. Their fists slammed together again. Rhodes was smaller, leaner than Zefa, but his punches packed a serious wallop. I see, Zefa said, studying the young man in front of him. Wild, red hair flew around his head, and his green eyes were sharp enough to cut steel. His face was young, reckless, and full of fire. This kid had a will that wouldn't break. Trying to talk him down was a fool's errand. Your heart's as strong as your fist. Guess I can't talk you out of this. Zefa let out a sigh. What a shame. His fist crackled with energy, turning his whole arm black. Just looking at it, you could feel the power. Then you'll just have to spend the rest of your life in Impel Down. Zefa vanished, Rhodes' eyes flashed, and he threw up his arms to block. Boom. The punch landed with bone-jarring force, sending Rhodes flying. He hit the ground hard, digging deep furrows as he tried to stop. Come on, tough guy. Bring it. He planted his feet, stopping his slide. He glared at Zefa, charged up his fists, and twisted at the waist, putting everything he had into the attack. Six King Spear. Zefa's eyes widened. He knew that move. He'd taught it. As the Navy's former chief instructor, he'd trained countless officers. Most of the top brass had come through his hands. But very few could master the Navy's 6 forms, let alone unlock secrets like the Six King Spear. And this kid just picked it up on his own. But it's useless. Zefa roared, slamming his fist forward. Swords, skills, devil fruits, they were just tools. In a fight between masters, one thing decided the outcome: sheer force of will. The invisible attack hit Rhodes the instant Zefa swung. He blocked, but was still thrown back, out of control. Damn, it's not enough. As he flew backward, Rhodes' mind raced. The Six King Spear was a secret technique, the ultimate expression of the 6 forms. It was all the body's power released in a single shockwave. When the user infused their power into the blast, it hurt people without even touching them. The key was to use Haki to make that wave even stronger. If I can combine the shockwave of the Six King Spear with the flow of Haki, I can beat him. Snap. Rhodes landed, facing Zefa, taking a deep breath. I should be good to go. My body can still handle it for now. He glanced over at the other fights. They're holding their own against the Navy. No problem, Star. Don't you dare take your eyes off me during a fight. Zefa roared. Rhodes raised his arms, barely blocking Zefa's heavy blow, stumbling slightly. Alright, let's do it, Star. Boom. Another shock. I told you, it's useless. Zefa yelled, blasting the shockwave aside with a punch and a burst of Haki. Damn. But the kid's a tank. Not even among Navy specialists, only a tiny handful understood the secrets of the Six King Spear. And even fewer could use it more than once. It took everything you had, so most people were useless afterward. But this kid was on his 4th try. Zefa unleashed another punch, dispersing the wave. His face flickered with surprise. That last one, there was something else in there. Power, Star. Then I guess I have to stop you here. He clenched his fist. Or you're gonna change the whole world. World? Rhodes smirked. Don't put that on me. I just want to kick your ass. Combining the shockwave with a burst of Haki, that should be enough. He stared at Zefa, hungry for the fight.